In the days when Israel had no king, and every man did what was right in his own eyes, chaos reigned. Families were broken, idols were worshipped, and the people cried out to God, yet often turned back to sin. It was in this dark season that the story of a man named Jephthah begins. His story is not one of privilege, nor of honor, but of rejection. Jephthah was known as a mighty warrior. He was strong, bold, and gifted in battle. Yet his strength could not hide the wound he carried from birth. His mother was a prostitute. His father, Gilead, never denied him food or shelter, but he never embraced him with love. And so, Jephthah grew up in a home where he was present, yet never fully accepted. The whispers of neighbors followed him everywhere, the son of another woman, the son of shame. No matter how hard he fought, no matter how brave he proved himself, the stain of his birth remained. Scripture tells us, in Judges 11:2, Gilead's wife also bore him sons, and when they were grown up, they drove Jephthah away. "You shall not inherit in our father's house," they said, "for you are the son of another woman." Can you hear the cruelty in those words? His own brothers, flesh of his flesh, cast him out. They did not strike him with swords, they struck him with rejection, and that wound can cut deeper than any blade. On a fateful day, the brothers confronted him in the fields. They told him plainly, "Leave now. You will have no share among us." And no one spoke up for him. Not his father, not his stepmother, not the elders of the city. He walked away with nothing but a torn cloak, a small knife, and the scars of a broken childhood. Jephthah's feet bled as he walked the rocky path eastward. And yet, deep inside, he carried a whisper, "You are not finished yet. Your pain has a purpose." The Bible says in Judges 11:3, "So Jephthah fled from his brothers and lived in the land of Tob. And worthless men gathered themselves to Jephthah and went out with him. The land of Tob was barren, a wilderness where outcasts and fugitives hid. But there among the broken, Jephthah became a leader. The rejected gathered around the rejected. The unwanted found refuge with the unwanted. And soon, a band of desperate men began to follow him. Not because of his family name, not because of an inheritance, but because they saw in him a strength they could trust. Jephthah, the outcast, had finally found a place where he belonged. Among the misfits, he became a chief, a protector, and a brother. Though he had been rejected by men, he was being prepared by God. The Bible reminds us in Psalm 118, verse 22, "The stone the builders rejected has become the cornerstone." This was Jephthah's beginning. A son despised, a brother cast out, a man left with nothing except his courage and his God. Rejected by men, yet chosen by God. This was not the end of Jephthah's story. It was only the beginning. Years passed in silence, and Israel once again found itself in deep trouble. The Ammonites, fierce and restless, rose up in strength. They crossed the Jordan River, marched into the land, and began to wage war against God's people. Town after town trembled as the armies of Ammon advanced, and the hearts of Israel grew faint. They had no champion, no commander, no one strong enough to resist the tide of battle. Their cries went up, but their courage failed them. Fear spread like fire among the people, and despair settled heavily over the land. The elders of Gilead gathered in secret, their faces pale with dread. They searched among themselves, but none could rise to the task. Their armies were weak, their leaders unsure, and the people restless. And then, in their shame, one thought rose again and again in their hearts. The man they had once rejected, the warrior they had driven away, was the only one strong enough to save them now. The memory of Jephthah, the mighty warrior of Tob, haunted them. The man they had despised had become the one they needed most. With heavy steps and humbled hearts, the elders journeyed to Tob. Dust clung to their sandals as they walked the long road, and the weight of their decision pressed hard upon them. How could they face the man they had cast away? How could they ask help from Desperation leaves no room for pride. They came with trembling voices, hoping for mercy where once they had shown cruelty. And when they stood before Jephthah, they spoke with pleading words. "Come, be our commander, so that we may fight against the Ammonites." Pause and consider the moment. The same voices that had allowed his rejection were now crying for his return. The very men who turned their backs now stretched out their hands. Jephthah's heart must have burned within him as he listened. Old wounds are not easily forgotten, and scars of rejection do not fade quickly. He looked into the eyes of the elders, and he remembered every bitter word, every insult, every moment of being driven away from his father's house. And Jephthah spoke with both sorrow and strength. "Did you not hate me? Did you not drive me from my father's house? Why do you come to me now, when you are in distress?" Those words carried the weight of years of pain. He did not hide his wounds, nor did he pretend that nothing had happened. He reminded them of their cruelty, their rejection, their betrayal. It was not bitterness that moved him, but truth. And truth, spoken aloud, pierced the pride of the elders. They bowed their heads, ashamed. The proud leaders of Gilead now stood humbled before the man they had cast aside. And they answered with trembling voices, "We turn to you now. Come with us. Fight against the Ammonites, and you will rule over all who live in Gilead." This was no small request. They were not simply asking for help in battle. They were offering leadership, authority, and honor. They were asking Jephthah to become their head, the very thing they once denied him because of his birth. In that moment, the outcast was offered the crown of leadership. The stone that was rejected was about to become the cornerstone. But Jephthah did not leap at their offer. He measured their words carefully, weighing them in the balance of truth and faith. He had known rejection once, and he would not walk blindly into another trap. And so he asked them with clear and steady voice, "If you bring me back to fight against the Ammonites, and the Lord delivers them into my hands, will I truly be your head?" This question pierced through their desperation. It was not only a test of loyalty, but a recognition of God's sovereignty. Jephthah knew that victory would not come by his strength alone. It would be the Lord who delivered Israel, not the hand of man. And so he anchored his question not in pride, but in faith. "If the Lord delivers them into my hands, will I truly be your head?" The elders lifted their eyes and answered with solemn words, "The Lord is our witness. We will certainly do as you say." There, in that moment, a covenant was born. It was more than an agreement between men. It was a vow made in the sight of God. The elders confessed with their mouths, and Jephthah tested their hearts. And before the presence of the Almighty, they bound themselves to their word. The man they once despised was now chosen to lead them, not by accident, but by divine appointment. And so Jephthah went with the elders of Gilead. The people gathered, and with one voice they made him head and commander. No longer was he the son of a prostitute. No longer was he the outcast, cast aside in shame. Now he stood as a leader, a deliverer, a chosen vessel in the hands of God. The same man who once wandered in exile now walked in authority, for the Lord had lifted him up. And Jephthah repeated all his words before the Lord at Immerse. He did not trust in the promises of men alone. He laid his covenant before the throne of heaven, sealing his leadership not with pride, but with prayer. For he knew that the strength of Israel's deliverance would not come from his sword, nor from the loyalty of men, but from the power of God. Consider the mystery of this moment. The elders sought him because of desperation. The people received him because of need. But it was the Lord who prepared him in exile, the Lord who shaped his courage in rejection, the Lord who gathered the outcasts around him in tow, and the Lord who now raised him up as head and commander. What man despised, God had chosen. What men cast aside, God restored. Pause here and let the truth sink in. Rejection does not end a story. Pain does not silence God's plan. The stone that builders refuse becomes the cornerstone of God's work. Jephthah, the rejected warrior, was now Jephthah, the chosen leader, and all of Israel would see that the hand of God cannot be stopped by the words of men. So, Act 2 closes not with the sound of battle, but with the weight of covenant. Israel has found its leader, though not by their wisdom, but by God's design. And Jephthah, scarred by rejection but strengthened by faith, now stands at the edge of destiny. The call to lead has been spoken, and the deliverer of Israel is ready to rise. After Jephthah was made leader of Israel, the weight of a nation rested on his shoulders. But before swords clashed and blood was spilled, he chose a path of wisdom. He would first speak before he fought. Jephthah sent messengers across the land to the King of Ammon. His words were not threats, but a call for truth. He sought to understand the reason behind the looming war. Judges 11:12. Then Jephthah sent messengers to the Ammonite king with the question, "What do you have against me that you have attacked my country?" The king of Ammon replied with bitter claims. He said, "When Israel came up out of Egypt, they took away my land. Now give it back peaceably." But his words twisted history, for the truth was far different than what he declared. And so Jephthah, the outcast turned leader, became also a teacher of Israel's history. With patience, he recounted the truth, not with the sword, but with the story of God's faithfulness. Judges 11:15-16. Israel did not take the land of Moab or the land of the Ammonites. But when they came up out of Egypt, Israel went through the desert to the Red Sea and on to Kadesh. Jephthah told how Israel asked permission, time and again, from the kings of Edom and Moab, but were refused. Israel did not steal land. They fought only when attacked, and the Lord, the God of heaven, gave them victory. Judges 11:21-22. Then the Lord, the God of Israel, gave Sihon and his whole army into Israel's hands, and they defeated them. Israel took over all the land of the Amorites who lived in that country. Jephthah's voice grew bold through his messengers. "For 300 years, he declared, Israel has lived in these towns. Why did you not claim them before? It is not we who trespassed, but you who now rise against us." Judges 11:26. For 300 years, Israel occupied Heshbon, Aroer, the surrounding settlements, and all the towns along the Arnon. Why didn't you retake them during that time? And with striking clarity, Jephthah set the matter before the Lord himself. Let the Lord, the judge, decide this dispute between the Israelites and the Ammonites. Judges 11:27. I have not wronged you, but you are doing me wrong by waging war against me. Let the Lord, the judge, decide the dispute this day between the Israelites and the Ammonites. But the king of Ammon paid no attention to Jephthah's words. His heart was hardened, his ears closed to truth. War was now inevitable. Yet even in this, Jephthah's wisdom shines. Before battle, he sought peace. Before judgment, he declared God as the true judge. And though men may reject truth, heaven never does. And so, the stage was set. The messengers returned, their words ignored, their warning refused. The armies of Ammon prepared their spears and Israel readied for war. The silence of negotiation was about to give way to the thunder of battle. This was the end of Jephthah's appeal, but not the end of his story, as Jephthah steps from the shadows of words into the fire of battle. For soon the Spirit of the Lord would come upon him, and his vow would shape history. Join us in episode 2.